Hello everyone, in today's lesson we're going to learn how to graph a linear inequality. Okay, so the key features of the key steps in this process is you got to start by getting the inequality into Y-intercept form. Then from there we graph the Y-intercept, which is the B, which is this guy right here, whoops. Okay, and then you use the slope, which is that M right there, to create more points, and you don't connect the dots. Determine if the line's dot or solid, and then using the dot principle, shade the appropriate side of the line. Okay? So, whoops. Let's get rid of that. Alright, so let's take a look at number 1. Okay? And I need to get rid of that mess. There we go. Alright. So let me zoom in just a little bit more. Okay, so it says graph y is greater than x plus 3. So the first thing we need to do again is to make sure we are in Y-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b, which looking at our inequality we are. So we're good. So our next step is that we are then going to use this find the slope and the y-intercept to plot some new points. So again, right here is my y-intercept. So I'm going to go to positive 3 on the y-intercept, y-axis, and make my point. Okay? Now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to use find the slope. That's this guy right here. Now notice since I can't see it, technically our slope is 1 to 1. Which means we're going to rise 1 and run 1. So on our graph, make some good points, rising 1, running 1, like so. Okay, now you can keep going with the dots if you want to, but you really don't have to go all that crazy. Now, we don't connect the dots yet. Now, with a linear equation, if this thing right here said equals, then we could clear it, we could just make the straight line and be done with it. But the problem is we don't have that. We have an inequality. So we have to determine whether this line is going to be dot or solid. And this is just like back in the day when you were graphing something simple like x is greater than 3. Remember at 3 we had open or closed dot. Well, it's the same idea here. It's the same idea as open or closed dot, except instead of open or closed dot, because it's not a point, we're dealing with an equation. So therefore, we have to use dot or solid line. Dotted. So a dotted line is equal to open back in the day. And a solid line is equal to closed dot. Okay. So, now, looking how to determine whether this thing is going to be open or closed, well, we look solely at the inequality itself. Okay, so we're going to look at the inequality to determine what to do here. Now, our inequality, based on what we're seeing here, is greater than. Okay, now again, there's no solid line underneath the inequality. Remember, if it's greater than or less than, it would have been open dot on a regular graph, which means it's a dotted line on our new graph here. Greater than or equal to or less than or equal to is going to be a solid line. And kind of like my rule of thumb, is if there's a solid line here, then there's a solid dot on your graph, or a solid line on your graph. If there's no solid line under here, like these guys do, there's no solid line on the graph. Okay, so based on what I'm seeing with my inequality up here, okay, so based on what I'm seeing up here, it's showing me that I'm dealing, because there's no solid line under the inequality, there's no solid line on my graph. So this is going to be a dotted line. So I'm going to connect this with a dotted line. Okay, so there's my dotted line. Now, then we have to figure if this is going to be which direction of the line we are going to shade in. Okay, so now this is going to be based on the what we call the duh principle. Okay, so let me get rid of some of this garbage here. Okay, now how the duh principle works is quite simple. Okay, you're going to have du, that makes duh, kind of a space in between. Now this space right here is going to be used for the inequality symbol, and it's going to point you in the direction of which side we're going to go on. Now D stands for down, U stands for up. Okay, so what we're going to do, our inequality statement is y is greater than x plus 3. Now if I throw duh underneath this and just bring this inequality symbol down, you will notice that it's pointing to, the inequality is pointing to the u, which means we are going up. Okay, so from my line, okay, from my points, I'm going to be shading in this direction, shading up. So that means that is the side of the line we're going to shade. So we're going to cover all this up. You just scribble it in, have some fun. Since when you don't get to color very often when you guys get older, so have some fun. Put in a happy little tree, as Bob Ross used to say. And there you go. There is your inequality. Okay, there's your graph. It's that simple. All right, so I'm gonna, whoops. Alrighty. So we're gonna take a step out. And look at question number 2. Now again, I'm gonna work this one with you, so don't panic if you don't quite understand it yet. Okay? So, here we go. Now remember, our first step in doing these things is we have to put the thing into Y-intercept form first. So nicely enough for us, our graph, our equation here, inequality technically, is in Y-intercept. So we're perfectly fine. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that highlight. Now, our next step, again, is we're going to plot the Y-intercept, and we're going to plot some points using the slope. So now again, here's my Y-intercept at -6. So I go to -6 on the Y-axis, which is right about there. Let's make a nice point. Now, my slope is 4, or 4 to 1. So this is going to tell me that my line goes up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. And make a series of points. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. 3, 4 over 1, like so. Okay? So we have our series of points on our line. Now, now we're going to determine whether this line is dot or solid. So again, I look underneath the inequality symbol, and I notice there's no solid line, which means there's no solid line on my graph. So again, we are going to connect this with a dotted line. Okay. Now, using duh, so let me rewrite this so we can actually see the original problem. I'm going to throw duh underneath this. Now, based on the inequality I had, in this case, notice the arrow. it's pointing downwards. So from my ordered points, I'm going to shade downwards. So from my points, draw straight lines down to show which side of the line we're going to shade. So at this point, we're just going to color this side all in. And again, have some fun with it. You don't get to color all that often in high school, right guys? So, just have some fun. And there you go. There's that one. As easy as that. Alright, this next one. A little bit trickier. But again, nothing too terrible. Alright, so first thing I look for is my inequality. So this guy right here is my inequality in Y-intercept form. And the answer is yes. So I'm all set to go. So let me clear all this out. Okay. So from here, I'm now going to start plotting some points. My Y-intercept is at positive 3. My slope is negative 1/2. So yeah, an ugly fraction, but again, just think about what a negative 1/2 slope means. It means we're going to go down 1 and to the right 2. So down 1, right 2. Down 1, right 2. Okay. Now we need to determine whether this line is dot or solid. So looking here, I've got a solid line, which means if I have a solid line in there, I've got a solid line on my graph. So I'm going to connect these points with a solid line. This is not working out too well, is it? Alright. And again, you should be using a ruler when you do this. I'm just trying to freehand this with a, I don't know what you call these pens that you write on an iPad, but. So, now we use duh. Y greater than or equal to negative 1/2 of x plus 3. And again, using duh, we are pointing to the u. So that means we're shading up. So from our points that we made, we're going to be shading up. Okay, so that means we're shading that side of the line. So we color it all in. Okay. Okay, so just like that. Can have some fun, color it in. Like so. Okay? It's that simple. Alright, so now I'm going to give you one to try on your own. Okay? So, what I want you to do, I want you to try this one on your own. I'm going to give you about a minute. You can leave the tape running. And again, I will come back in a minute or so and we'll talk about this problem and see how you do. So again, good luck. Try this one out. See how you do. And again, I'll come back in about a minute, so just leave the tape running and we'll talk about this problem. Alright folks, I'm back. So again, if you're not done with it, you can just pause the video at this point, but again, I'm going to start running this problem. So the first thing I do, I look to see, is my problem in Y-intercept form? Which it is, so I'm good there. So my next step, I'm going to start plotting points. Okay, here's my Y-intercept at 2. So I go to positive 2 on the Y-axis, I make my point. My slope, negative 4 to 1, so I'm going to go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. So it looks like this. Now my next step, again, determine whether this line is going to be dot or solid. So I look right here. I don't see a solid line underneath that inequality symbol, which means I'm connecting these lines with a dotted line. Now, then I have to determine which side of the line to shade. So using so y less than negative 4x plus 2. Again, using my arrow is pointing down. So that's the side of the line I'm going to shade. So again, draw arrows straight down from the points you made to show you which side of the line you're shading. So then here we go. Just color it all in. Whoops, went a little over there, but that's okay. Your answer should look something like that. Whoops. Okay. So now, moving on to something like this. Now this one I'll work with you to start, because again, this does look a little different. The problem being, our inequality this time is not in Y-intercept form. So we need to make this happen. So we need to make this look like y equals mx plus b. Okay. So to do that, first thing I'm going to need to do is minus the 2x. I'll bring it off to the side here. So we get now 3y is going to be less than negative 2x plus 6. Okay. Now, I'm not quite done, because notice up here the y is completely alone, and down here it's not. So I'm going to divide everything by 3. Y less than negative 2/3 of x plus 2. Now that right there looks like something we've been working with so far. So that's what we're going to use. Okay, so again, I'm going to go to positive 2 on the y-axis. My slope, negative 2/3. It says I go down 2, right 3. Down 2, right 3. Down 2, right 3. Okay. Now we have to figure, is this line dot or solid? Well, looking at this, I don't see a solid line in there, which means we're dealing with a dotted line. Like so. Now, we're using now, so let's figure out where we're going to shade. I'm just going to go right underneath here. Let me just erase this real quick. Beautiful. Alright, so using drag that arrow down, and notice it's pointing to the U. So we're to the D, I'm sorry, so we're shading down. So, downwards, 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 downwards. So I'm shading all this side of the line. Now let me change back to the red. I like the red better. So we color it all in. And again, remember, the reason why we're going crazy with this coloring is the fact that, remember, that shading in an inequality shows us solutions. So the reason why we have to color all this is because any coordinate in this area that's all super shaded here are ordered pairs that make our inequality up here true. Okay? So that's why we have to do all this. Alright? So there's that one. So again, little extra step, but not a terrible step. I mean, it's not too crazy. Okay? So let's look at example number 6. Now again, first thing I notice, is my inequality in Y-intercept? The answer is no. So I need to make that happen. So we're going to minus 4x. Excuse me. Minus 4x. So I get y greater than negative 4x plus 3. Okay. Now that I'm in Y-intercept, I'm going to start graphing this thing. Start with my Y-intercept positive 3. Okay. Now my slope is negative 4 or negative 4 to 1. So down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1 is right there. Down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1 is right here. Down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1 is right here. Now, we have to determine, is this line dot or solid? Well, again, I don't see the solid line in the circle I just made. So that means I'm connecting these things with a dotted line. Oops. Okay. Now we have to use the duh principle to figure out where we're shading. Whoops. Okay, so looking at where the arrow points, we're shaded up this time. Up, 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 and up. So this is the side we're going to shade. And there you go. Piece of cake, right? Yep. So let's go to the next one. Alright, example 7, new page. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this one. So again, I start off. Is this thing in Y-intercept form? The answer is absolutely not. So let's start putting this in Y-intercept. So I'm going to minus 3x. 5y greater than or equal to negative 3x plus 10. Divide everything by 5s. So y greater than or equal to negative 3/5 of x plus 10. So there's my graph, my equation, or inequality. So now let's start graphing this thing up. Oh, wait a minute. No, there's a mistake there. Hold on. It's not 10, is it? 10 divided by 5 is 2. So we go. Let's go to 2 on the y-axis. My slope's negative 3/5, so down 3. 1, 2, 3 over 5. 1, 2, 3 over 5. Alright, now, determine if the line's dot or solid. Well, again, looking at this, I've got a solid line in there. So, I'm connecting this with a solid line. Yeah, that was a pretty good line. Just a little bit, but... Now we have to figure out which way we're shading. Okay? Hopefully this doesn't erase everything. Of course it's going to. Alright, well, I'll fix it. Y greater than or equal to. So again, using duh, the inequality arrow is pointing to the U. So we're going up. 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 So this is the side of the line that we're going to shade. So all this. So there it is, right then and there. All right, so we've come to one that you need to try. So like I said, I'll give you about a minute. So again, just like before, leave the tape running. And I will come back in about a minute or so and check on you, and we'll do the problem out and see how you're doing. All right, so I'll see you in about a minute. Okay, we are back. It's been a minute. All right, so the first thing I see I'm going to need to do, I'm going to need to put this in Y-intercept. So I'm going to start by minusing x. So 2y less than or equal to negative x plus 8. Divide everything by 2's. Now remember there's a 1 hiding up here. Y less than or equal to negative 1/2 of x plus 4. All right, so here we go. Let's now go and graph this up. So we're going to go to positive 4 on the y-axis. Okay. Now my slope's negative 1/2, so down 1, right 2. Okay. Now let's determine, looking at my line here, is this going to be dot or solid? Again, solid line in there means solid line on the graph. Now, let's see if I can keep the line here. I think I switched it. So nice, I fixed it just right. Now, let's determine, using duh, which direction we're going to shade. So using duh, our inequality is going that way, so we're pointed down. So down. So we're shading this side of the line. So again, we just color this all in. Okay. And there is our line. Pretty simple. All right, now, these don't look any different. But, but they do have a come on, you. They do have a nasty little trick waiting for you, so you need to be careful. It kind of goes back to the old rule with our inequalities before. But let's see if you pick up on it. I'm going to start the problem, and then I'm going to stop when we come to that issue. So first things first, I need to minus the x. Nothing tricky about that. Negative y greater than negative x plus 3. Now, I still need to get y alone, so I'm going to divide by negative 1. That doesn't change either. But here's where the problem starts. Y. Now remember, from our rules of inequalities from way back when, anytime you divide with a negative, that inequality symbol flips. So this is now less than x minus 3. And that was the trap. That's the tricky part on that one, is because we divided with negative, remember, you have to flip the symbol. So now we're set to go. Okay, so now let's set this up. I'm going to start again on my y-intercept of negative 3. My slope, since I can't see it, is 1 to 1. Okay, now, just like before, dot or solid line. I look under here, don't see a solid line, so it's got to be dotted. Okay, now, using now let's see if I did this right again. Nope, I didn't. Y is less than. Now using notice the arrow is pointing down. So we're on this side of the line. And that was the only tricky part about ones like this, is you have to be careful of dividing with a -1, because you do have to flip the symbol. Okay? Alright, so let's look at 10. Alright, so here we go. Am I in Y-intercept? No. So we got to start. Minus the 2x. -4y less than -2x minus 8. Divide by -4. And again, because I divided with negative, this flips. Y is now greater than 1/2 of x plus 2. So, we're going to go to +2. My slope is 1/2, up 1/2. Okay, now, dot or solid line. Well, looking at what I have here, that's definitely going to be dotted. Now, hopefully I did this right this time. Oh, now it's not going to go at all. How nice is that? Alright, so we'll just have to deal. Alright, now using am I going to be shading up or down? It's going to the U, so we're going up. And there you go. That easy. Alright, let's look at this next one. Alright, so first things first. Y-intercept? Of course not. Minus 3x. -4y is going to be greater than or equal to -3x plus 4. Divide by -4. And again, because I divide with a negative, y is now less than or equal to 3/4 of x minus 1. Okay, so let's start to graph this. We go to -1 on the y-axis. My slope is 3/4, 1, 2, 3 over 4. 1, 2, 3 over 4. Like so. Now let's look. Is this going to be dot or solid? I see a solid line in that circle. So that means we're going to have a solid line on my graph. Oops. Now, using we headed downwards. So we shade all this. Like so. And there it is. Again, very easy to do once you get the hang of it. Let's take a look at this one. Again, do I have y-intercept? Nope. Minus 5x. So negative 2y less than or equal to negative 5x plus 6. Now again, if I'm going too fast, again, pause the video, catch up, or rewind it a little bit. Now, I'm going to divide everything by negative 2. But I'm assuming at this point, most of you are probably doing this on your own anyway. 5 halves. Again, I had to flip. And that turns to minus 3. Kind of an ugly slope, and I forgot the x. How silly of me. Alright, so now here we go. We go to negative 3. My slope is 5 halves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. Okay, now let's look. Now again, solid line in here means solid line on the graph. It's a little wiggly. Now, based on what we're seeing with duh, we are headed up. So it's that simple, right then and there. There it is. All that. It's that simple. Alright, I think that's the end of this page. Let's go to the next one. Alright, so I'm going to let you try 13 and 14. Let's start with 13 first. Let's keep this simple. Okay, so I'm going to let you try this one first. Then we'll talk about it. So I'll give you about a minute. So get going on it. I will come back in about a minute. We'll talk about it. And then we'll do the next one. Then I've got another thing I've got to show you. So again, leave the tape running, and I'll see you in about a minute. Alright, here we go. Let's start. Minus the x. Negative 2y greater than negative x plus 6. Divide by negative 2. And again, because I divided with negative, y is now less than 1/2 of x minus 3. Alright, so let's start this up. Go to negative 3. My slope is 1/2. Okay, now let's take a look. Dot or solid. Well, I don't see a solid line there, so dotted. It's going to be a dotted line. Make a better dotted line. Now, based on duh, I'm going to head down. So this side of the line is where we shade. That's simple. Okay. All right, let's try this one. Give you about a minute. Okay. It's been a minute already, folks. So let's take a look. Minus 3x. So negative 5y less than or equal to negative 3x plus 15. Divide by negative 5. Y, now because I divided with negative, is now greater than or equal to 3/5 of x minus 3. There's some ugly stuff. So again, let's go to negative 3 right here. My slope's 3/5. 1, 2, 3 over 5. 2, 3 over 5. Okay, now again, looking here, solid line there, which means solid line on our graph. And now using duh, we're headed up. So this side, so all this gets shaded in. Pretty simple. Alright. Alright, here's another one for you to try. So give this one a whirl and see how you do. Now this one, as easy as it looks, is some people find very tricky, so be very careful with it. So I'll give you about a minute, and we'll come back and talk about it. Alright, I kind of gave you more like 30 seconds, because I really don't think this one should take too long. Minus the x. So y is less than or equal to negative x. Well, there's no negative to divide with. Now, the tricky part is people freak out. Well, there's no y-intercept, but there is. Plus 0. So we're going to start at the origin. My slope is down 1 over 1. Okay. Now looking at my line. Solid line means solid line on my graph. And according to duh, we're shading down. So there it is. Again, not that tricky, but people freak out about it, and I don't know why. Alright, try this one. This one I'm going to give you about 30 seconds or so, because if you look at the form, you're going to see it's not that bad. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to do this one, then we'll talk. Alright, now why I didn't give you too much time on this one is because it's already in Y-intercept. So here we go. Positive 4, or negative 4, I'm sorry, negative. Slope's 2 to 1. Okay, now looking here, no solid line, so dotted line here. And using duh, we're pointed up. So there it is. There it is. Easy. Alright, these next ones are very easy too. Notice, we're missing a variable. These are specialty lines. So we go to our classic 2 questions. Which axis do I hit? X. Where do I hit it at? At 3. So we go to 3 on the x-axis, sorry, make our point. Now, is this line going to be dot or solid? Well, no solid line here means no solid line on the graph. So we're going to draw a dotted line. Now, am I shading up or down according to duh? Well, it says up. Well, students freak out because they say, well, gee, I don't get it. If I do up, I'm going to do this. I'm on the line. No, we're not doing that. Up when it comes to the x means up the x-axis, which is this side of the line. Okay, so be very careful. This is the only time it really does that. Again, down would be down the x-axis or left. Up would be up the x-axis or to the right. All right, let's look at this next one. No x, which means I have a specialty line. So we go to our two questions. Which axis do I hit? The y. Where do I hit the y at? At -6. Okay. Dot or solid line? Well, solid. Am I shading up or down according to duh? Well, I'm shading down. So, down. It's that easy. Alright, so I've got two more for you to try. And then that's the end. Okay, so let's start with this question. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds or so, because it should not take you that long to do this, and I'll come back and talk. Alright, time's up. So we go to our two questions. Which axis do I hit? The x. Where do I hit the x at? At -2. Is my line dot or solid? Well, solid from what I can see. And I'm going to be shading according to duh. I'm shading down. So again, down the x-axis means this side of the line. Piece of cake. Alright, last one. Try it out. I'll give you about 30 seconds. Alright, let's do it. Which axis the y? Where at 3? Dotted line. And according to duh. Oh. Alright, so finish up. According to duh, arrows pointing up, so we're going to shade up. So we're going to shade this side of the line.
Scribble.
Alright folks, and again I'm sorry about the length of this video, but hopefully you got a lot out of it, and it's going to be the backbone for when we start graphing systems of inequalities, which involves two lines with these. So, I will see you in the next video.